So you've found the house, you've signed the purchase agreement,
Mm-hmm.
you're already picturing move-in day.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the lawyers and lenders start their work, this hidden, unassuming document pops up.
Right.
And it threatens to derail the entire deal. It could cost you tens of thousands of dollars you never, ever budgeted for. We're talking about a legal flaw attached right to the property itself.
Oh.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into the surprisingly high-stakes world of the open permit.
Yeah.
It really sounds like something that should only worry, a city bureaucrat.
Exactly.
But in a real estate transaction, it is a ticking financial time bomb.
I have to admit, when I first looked at the sources for this deep dive, I just assumed an open permit was, a small administrative fee? Maybe a fine?
A common assumption.
I was so wrong. We're framing this as the invisible liability, the government paperwork failure that a new owner, they just inevitably inherit.
And that inheritance, that's the core problem we need to define right away. The permit doesn't matter what it covers, a new roof, a gas line, an addition. It's legally attached to the property.
Right, not the person.
Not the person who did the work. So if the previous owner failed to get that official sign-off, that unresolved liability becomes the full financial and legal responsibility of the new buyer. You bought the house, you bought the problem.
That distinction is so vital between the person and the property. So let's start with the basics for you, the listener. What is the typical process supposed to look like, for any permitted project, whether it's remodeling a bathroom or putting in a new furnace? What are those 4 steps?
It's a very logical 4-stage process, and it's surprisingly straightforward when it's done correctly.
Okay.
So step 1 is what you'd expect. Opening the permit. This is the application phase. The homeowner or their contractor submits plans, gets the official okay from the local town or city to start.
Then step 2 is what everyone really focuses on. Perform the work.
Right. The actual construction happens.
The fun part.
But see, those first 2 steps only authorize the work. Steps 3 and 4 are where the safety and legality get confirmed.
And these are the steps that fail.
Almost universally, yes. This is what leads to an open permit. Step 3 is the final inspection.
Right.
A building inspector has to physically come out to the property, check that the completed work is safe, that it's structurally sound, and that it follows all the local building codes.
And the final sign-off? The golden ticket.
That's step 4. Close the permit. That's the official note in the city's records. Project is done, inspected, and approved. An open permit just means steps 3 and 4 never happened. The work might look done, but the official closure is missing.
But why? Why do people skip those last 2 steps? Is it just laziness, or is there something, more cynical going on?
It's usually a mix of things, and it's rarely malicious. I mean, often contractors are already focused on the next job. They finish the work, they get paid, and moving on just takes priority over scheduling that last inspection. Or sometimes the homeowners themselves, they just don't realize it's on the contractor to call it in, or they just forget.
So the project could look absolutely perfect, but if that paper trail just stops cold after step 2, it's legally incomplete.
Precisely. And in some cases, the omission is deliberate. If a homeowner or a contractor knows they cut corners, maybe the foundation isn't deep enough or the electrical work wasn't done by a licensed electrician, they will intentionally avoid that final inspection because they know the work will fail.
And that's when the open permit goes from being just, an administrative headache to actual evidence of a hazard.
Exactly.
That makes the liability feel so much more real. Okay, let's pivot to the immediate consequences. You're ready to buy, you've put down a deposit, and the title search finds 3 open permits from, say, 2005. Here's where it gets really interesting, because this one failure is like throwing sand right in the gears of the whole closing process.
The immediate impact is just friction. That's the best word for it. An open permit instantly raises this huge red flag for all the sophisticated parties.
The buyer, the lender.
The buyer, the lender, the title company, they all see a known legal risk that has to be resolved.
And that risk means delay and derailment. We hear stories of closings being pushed back for weeks, even months.
Oh, absolutely. Sophisticated buyers and lenders will often make closing all open permits a non-negotiable condition of the sale.
Right.
And just imagine the hassle. Now you, the buyer, have to call the city, try to figure out who did the work 15 years ago, if that contractor's out of business.
You're stuck.
You have to find a new licensed professional who is willing to come in, review, vouch for, and maybe even fix the old work just so they can sign the paperwork to schedule a new inspection. That whole process just eats up critical time.
And while that clock is ticking, the banks are getting nervous.
Exactly. Lenders are financing what is probably the biggest asset you'll ever own, so they need everything to be legally perfect.
Right.
An uninspected project like, say, new plumbing or structural work is a huge unknown risk to the property's value. If the lender thinks the house might be subject to demolition orders or massive repair costs later,
They could back out.
they might hesitate on the loan terms or at least require a big holdback of funds until that permit is officially closed.
But what about title insurance? Isn't that supposed to protect you from hidden issues like this?
It is, but here's the catch. Title insurance is supposed to guarantee you clear ownership. When an open permit is found, the title company sees it as a known liability.
An existing problem.
An existing problem. So they'll often write the policy, sure, but they'll specifically exclude coverage for any future issues that come from that uninspected work.
So if the uninspected wiring causes a fire later on,
Your title insurance offers you zero protection related to that defect.
so the buyer is forced to absorb the hassle and a massive insurance gap. That sounds like some pretty powerful leverage in negotiations.
It's the ultimate bargaining chip. The buyer is taking on the cost, the time, and all the liability. So a buyer's attorney might reasonably argue for a big closing credit, not just to cover the cost of closing it, but for the potential mess. We see buyers successfully demand credits of, $5, $10, even $15,000 just to cover the uncertainty.
And for the seller, that is a direct hit to their bottom line.
A huge hit to the property's value.
So that shows the immediate financial strain.
Right.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, once the deal is done, the new owner has the keys. What are the long-term consequences they're now facing? This is where the cost can just spiral.
This is where you can see the six-figure shock. And it all revolves around one single regulatory detail that most people just don't know about.
Okay.
The biggest financial risk is the required costly repairs. When an inspector comes out to close a permit, even one from 20 years ago, they have to evaluate the work against the current stricter building codes.
Whoa, I need to pause on that because that is a huge distinction. If the last owner remodeled a basement in 2010 and it met all the 2010 rules, why does the new owner have to meet 2024 rules to close it?
Because the final closure document certifies that the property is compliant today. Think of it like a safety recall that never got fixed.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure. Let's say 10 years ago, the code for a deck required a 36-inch railing. Today, the code might require a 42-inch railing and specific composite materials for safety.
Right.
When the inspector shows up today to close that 2014 permit, they don't care that it met the old rule. They're going to demand the 42-inch railing and all the modern structural requirements.
Meaning the new owner might have to tear down a perfectly good deck and completely rebuild it just to get that piece of paper.
Exactly.
That's a retroactive repair bill based on standards that didn't even exist when the work was done.
Precisely. Or think about energy efficiency. A homeowner installs new windows in 2012. They were great for that time. But now modern code requires a much higher insulation value. So the new owner might be told that to close that permit, they have to tear out the walls around the windows and add new insulation or even replace the windows themselves. It turns a $500 administrative task into a $20,000 construction project.
That is the ultimate hidden surprise in these sources. The liability isn't the missing signature, it's the legal mandate to modernize.
And that's before we even get to the municipal punishments.
Oh, there's more.
There's more. Local authorities can impose fines and penalties for code violations or just for the failure to close permits. But what's more frustrating is they can basically freeze the property.
What do you can freeze?
If you, the new owner, want to start a new project, say you want to redo your kitchen, the city can withhold any new permits until all the existing open permits on the property are resolved.
So you buy the house, you inherit the open permit, and now you can't even renovate your own kitchen until you rebuild the deck the last guy half finished a decade ago.
It locks you out of improving your own home. It's a huge administrative nightmare. And of course, the fundamental issue here is safety.
Right.
An open permit is a giant red flag. It says that crucial work, the stuff hidden behind the walls like electrical or plumbing, was never professionally inspected. You have no guarantee that it's safe.
It really speaks to the integrity of the home itself. That uninspected wiring could be a fire hazard. That uninspected support beam could be totally inadequate.
Absolutely. The whole permit process exists for a reason, right? To protect people and ensure the structure is sound. When that process is incomplete, the history of that renovation is just clouded by doubt and risk.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, whether you're buying or selling?
I think the core takeaway is crystal clear. An open permit is an official safety and legal gap. And the homeowner has to fix it, even if they had absolutely nothing to do with the original work. It's an inherited debt. And if you're assessing that debt, you have to remember the most important part. You need to budget for modernizing the old work, not just for paying a small fee, which really raises a critical question for you, the listener, about due diligence.
Yeah.
You have to insist on a full permit search and understand that any open permit, especially on an older project, carries the very steep hidden price tag of complying with today's standards.
That is a critical insight for anyone navigating the high-stakes world of real estate. Thank you so much for helping us deep dive into this incredibly important and often invisible risk.
It was a pleasure to unpack these details.
If you have any questions about this deep dive or are thinking about buying or selling your house anywhere on Boston's South Shore, give Jim Aldred a call. He would love to help you.
Until next time, stay curious.
And stay informed.